Dharma is your duty to your own soul. Dollars make bigger dharmas doable. Make the most of your spins around on planet Earth. Welcome to the Dharma and Dollars Show with your hostess with the mostest, Kate Stillman. If you're repulsed by money, success, P&L statements, productivity hacks, don't listen. Stick to the Yoga Healer Body Thrive episodes released every Monday. But if you yearn for money talk, investments for your activism, real numbers in real time, if you want to get greedy for the good of all, stick around. And ask yourself before we begin, what do you want to make happen next?
Hello, it's Kate Stillman, and welcome back to the Dharma and Dollars Show. In today's episode, I talk about how to put your Vata, Pitta, and Kapha to work for your Dharma. I also explain what these energies are and how to sense them in yourself, how to activate them, how to take yourself to the next level of rhythm and flow and efficiency when you tap into the power of your doshas. So if you're interested in Ayurveda and you're interested in doshas and you're wanting your doshas to work for your Dharma, this show is for you. Growing up, I always felt like New Year's Day was a bit of a letdown. I wanted to align my vision. I wanted to align my body. I wanted to align into Dharma for the coming year. And it just seemed like there was just a lot of football games going on. So if that's the case for you and you want to step into the next level of integrity on this very holy day of the first day of the year, join us. I have a free community workshop I offer it every year. It always gets rave reviews. It's really a cool process. And we do it on New Year's Day. We do it live together. It's very powerful. If you want to come, the way to get it is get your phone out, whip it out, and then start a new text. And text the number 33444. And then in the subject, like where you text the words that you want to send to someone, put the words New Year's, NEWYEARS. So again, text 33444, the word New Year's, all caps, one word, New Year's, and you can get a free ticket. It's awesome. Do the community workshop and step into 2018 aligned, envisioned, your next level of integrity in your body and in your Dharma. I promise it will be a blast. Record. We're now live here. We're live there. We're recording here. I'm going to mute over here. Okay. And we are talking about putting your Vata, Pitta, and Kapha to work for you today. So let's talk about this a little bit. Why don't you talk, Don, just kind of kick us off. And for those who don't know, I'm here with Donna Skoglund. What's your website, Donna?
DonnaSkoglund.com. DANA.
Yeah,
Donna Dana.
That's a conversation in itself, and how long I called you Dana.
Yeah.
Not.
And lots of people have called me Dana. Used to it. People called me Donna Sveldana for a long time.
Oh, that's right. I bet. All right. So this, so why don't, go ahead and you kick it off with just what you're thinking about with this and where you think we might go. And then I'll chime in.
I love it when we can bring in the elements and the Ayurvedic principles, because it really gives us a framework so that once we understand the basic principles of Vata, Pitta, Kapha and how energy works and how each one goes in and out of balance, it really helps. So we can see, okay, what do I need more of? Do I need more efficiency? Do I need more flow? Do I need more rhythm? And then it's basically drawing upon those different doshas. And so Vata goes out of balance when it's arrhythmic. And so the opposite also, if we want to bring it in rhythm or in balance, we create rhythm. So creating that consistency. And I know for me, that consistency in my work helps me to allow the muse to show up on time. It's just, if I show up, the muse shows up, and having that regularity and that basically dependability, that's one that works for me. I'm naturally Pitta, so I think efficiency comes very naturally to me. I was noticing that today. It was like no time wasted. I get right to the point and I can make things happen quickly. And I have the least amount of kapha. So for me, flow is something that I need to consciously work on.
Yeah, so I'm going to back up now and just talk a little bit about these concepts for people who don't know. I know a lot of you do know these concepts, but I just want to take a big step back. So we have in our Ayurveda, we have this 5-element theory of ether, air, fire, water, earth. Ether is expansive. That's its chief attribute. Air moves. That's its chief attribute. Fire heats and rises and directs. Water flows, and earth stabilizes, right? And there's other attributes to each of them, but just for a brief overview, these elements combine into forces of energy. I love this teaching. I think this teaching came from, I'm going to probably misquote, but I think it's the Rod Stryker community, where you take your hand in front of your mouth and you just blow on your hand and you feel the movement of the air. That's Vata. You feel the heat, and that's the Pitta, and you feel the moisture, and that's the Kapha. That's like the forces that are the doshas in a breath, in a nutshell. Okay, so there's the way that I was taught about these doshas and their subtle doshas. The subtle dosha of Vata is prana. Many people are familiar with that clothing brand. I mean, that concept. As this something of like oxygen plus consciousness. So there's something that's intelligent in the breath. There's something that's connective. There's a almost a divine to personal connection that happens in prana. Not almost, but there is a divine to personal connection, or a cosmic to individual connection that happens in prana. Tejas is the insight. Tejas is, and I'm pointing to my third eye, or tapping my third eye and pointing directly forward. It's the decisiveness. It's actually discriminatory in nature, and it's the discrimination of knowing what you want to do, or what the bigger you wants to do, or what the cosmos wants out of you next, right? And because it can feel incredibly impersonal, I'd say at higher levels, where it's just you feel directed by a larger flow of consciousness and right action. And that ability to discriminate, that's your tejas. And then ojas is the sustaining force, the subtle dosha of kapha. It's a sustaining force for all of this energy to move and this action to take place. And it's more than that too. It's also your immune field that keeps your cells knowing what self is and what non-self is. A lot of people are having problems with that right now because of all the cellular confusion due to a gazillion different reasons of the postmodern age. All right. So what we're talking about today is, as we're in this Thrive path, we can start to, I think there's just a much simpler way to understand the power of living in alignment with these energies. And if we get that, like you were saying, like when there's a rhythm to your habits, your capacity increases, right? And when there's like a rhythm, there's no place for capacity to increase, because everything physiologically and even in the mental and emotional body is just actually in either reconfiguration mode, or at best and at worst survival mode, like really, right? Where body doesn't have a clear pathway of nourishment. The mind also doesn't have a deeper nourishment through meditation or deep sleep, right? And there's just this navigation of chaos occurring, right? Where it's just like trying to minimize damages, honestly, instead of optimize capacities. So when we have this rhythm, and this is, I think, especially for those of you who help coach people through the habits of Ayurveda, it's like you start to see left, right, and center, like, wow, when people have rhythm to their body habits, and the body habits are in alignment with their physiology, capacity increases. Sometimes it skyrockets. And all of a sudden, someone with like 20% of energy has like 60% energy. And then they're on a trajectory to 100% energy, into actually growing what 100% energy actually looks like over time. And then as that happens with the rhythm, right, that there's more and more rhythm. And let's break this out a little bit more into, for people in awake living, like you're getting a rhythm in terms of annual planning and quarterly planning, setting big goals, breaking big goals down into little fun projects, and then chinking away, automating the habits that get to the new place. And to me, this is really big to see it this way. It's like, if we understand habit automation, then we can see that like any big goal, you have to automate new habits. If we understand identity evolution, that any big goal, anything you've never done before that you've set your sights on, it's going to require you to become someone you're not. You've never been. And that person has really different habits. They have different neural pathways. They have different skills. They have different resources. They have different assets. And chances are they have different relationships, right, than the person you are now. And if you get that and you're like, okay, I get it. Like, if that's the way the world works, like, I love this. We were teaching this in Living Ayurveda course. Like, let's just understand from the Ayurvedic perspective, like, as best as we can figure out, this is the way the cosmos works. Like, if we can accept that, attune that, like things like gravity, things like hydration, defecation, like just some basics here. If we can be a bit in alignment with like, okay, identity evolution, this is real for hitting goals, habit evolution, and having a bit of a strategy behind this. That if this is real, if we can accept this as assumptions and premises, then all of a sudden, if we apply that, we can expect at least a different outcome than if we hadn't applied it. And if that outcome works, if we get closer to our goal, and if we start to build on that, if we, through iteration, right, which is like, I think the best word for that in Sanskrit is abhyasa. It's like this iterative process where you just do it again and again and again and again, right? And if you just kind of entrain to the iterative process, you get at least a good test, right? And to see the results of that. So we get that Vata is this rhythm, right, of this simply living in alignment, getting the flows of wind to become consistent in the body. And the yogis talk about this as the most basic flow the yogis talk about here, and the Vaidyas and the Ayurvedic medicine doctors, is apana prana, right? That apana goes down. This is root to rise too in yoga language, that if you, and it's also yield and extend. Some of the yogis might have heard it as yield and extend, where we can just do this. Anyone who's like standing in line at the grocery store, listening to this or walking, just releasing weight down and noticing how now you actually can spring up and extend. And from a plugged in place, right? Release and extend. So if we get that, okay, this is what we're talking about, that energy can move in any direction. That's Vata. But empowered, refined Vata is saying like, okay, certain channels are worth developing. So more energy can flow. And as that starts to happen, efficiency, right? Now the physiology is discovering efficiency, and so is the mind, because by directing energy, you're using your mind. You're using what the yogis call the manomaya kosha, right? You're strengthening specific neural pathways within the manomaya kosha in attunement with rhythm, running small experiments of like, does this rhythm work? Does this rhythm work? Like, what rhythms work best? Applying ancient wisdom, saying like, well, these guys said that. Does that work for me too? Like, oh yeah, that works for me too. Okay, cool. Now all of a sudden capacity is increasing. And so is this ability to get from A to B faster. And if we look at efficiency, and efficiency is a very masculine word. Often, I think especially for women, and because the majority of people listening to this are female, we often have an aversion, I would say, to this word, where it's not our favorite word. Right? It can just kind of be like, it can remind us of all that was wrong with fascism, if you will, or totalitarianism, or like, wow, extremely efficient regimes that went in the wrong direction fast and hard and really did an enormous amount of damage. Mm-hmm. Right? Or when we look at like a nuclear missile that's, designed to decimate the planet, right? We'd be like, wow, there's a lot of efficiency in that kind of technology, but it's not going in the direction we want. So we can have, I think, a well-founded aversion to that. But if we actually tap into the core of it, of like getting to where you want to go faster, and if we look at if the you is actually connected to the cosmos, if the you we're talking about is one with Dharma, and not an individual Dharma, but with a much bigger sense of who you are in connectivity, right, with the cosmos that created you, in connectivity with a deeper calling that's in service of the good, the true, and the beautiful. Like that's truly all that, mm-hmm. and not just for a specific population, but really for the whole. Then we can start to trust and lean into this efficiency. And what I notice in my path with this is there's an opportunity now to make a lot more happen in a compressed period of time. Now it's directly reliant on rhythm. So the more I want to tune that juice up, like, and I don't always, it's not, to me, it's not like a steady, it's not necessarily like a steady maximum pipeline thing. It pulsates in itself. I find this whole rhythm pulsates within its own cycles. And I haven't really investigated that as much as I probably will in the future. But what I notice is, like, if I ever want to turn that dial up to maximum, which I occasionally do for bursts, usually no longer than 6 weeks, I'm just like, let's take it to 11, right? Move that dial one fast in terms of, can I get all that much more done in real time? All I have to do is refine the rhythm, right? Is take that up a notch, and allow for the massive influx of directivity and focus that can occur. So my premise here is that when we're paying attention to both of those things, like the rhythm and then these breakthroughs in efficiency, and if we don't try to always be at 11 all the time, right, but we actually allow like a bit of a laying off, a bit of a dissolution, a bit of a returning to zero, a bit of a deep rest cycle, we will then be in flow. And when we're in flow, and this is the kapha side, this is the water side, this is where you're just kind of riding the wave. I mean, I am a surfer, and I did catch a wave last night. And I'm like, when you're riding the wave, unless you're like a shortboarder doing tricks in the air, like if you're just riding the wave, and even for those surfers doing tricks in the air, there's an effortlessness to it. Like they're using the energy of the wave to create art with their body. Mm-hmm. And there is this sense of complete integration, that the wave and the surfer are not two, right? The wave and the individual, the energy, the flow and the individual are not separate. They're completely interconnected, and to the point of feeling like one. And when we're there, of course, we're way more aware of rhythm, and we're way more tuned into potential efficiencies. But it's coming from a place of effortlessness at that point, or what feels like effortlessness. It's not that effort and action are not taken. It's just that we really are doing it from a much deeper place of universal energy.
Yeah. Yeah. As you were talking about that, I was thinking about these three, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, as being Pitta being the vision, Vata being the action, and Kapha being the surrender. And how these three elements make up, I would say, the path of awake living. It's having the clear vision, taking consistent, regular action, and then also leaning back and trusting. And a lot of that is that surrender and allowing that flow piece where.
Yeah. And a lot of people aren't willing to do the work. I'm going to say this because it can really sound like, I just want to draw, there's a massive differentiation here between like positive thinking and wishful thinking and blind trust or blind faith, right? It's like, you actually have to earn this level of surrender. And the way you earn it is through rhythm.
Yeah. Taking action. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Taking that aligned.
Yeah. I think
taking that aligned action.
Totally. I think and for the surrender, or that part of what you were saying, it's not so much like think positive, but I think there is an element of believing it's possible. I think that's huge. Like believing that you can, even if you don't know how, but believing that it's possible. Because I think without that, it's really, really hard, because that's your identity. It's all, if you can't identify, if you can't cultivate that identity and see, this is who I'm becoming, then the actions and the behaviors won't follow.
That's a really good point of being open. And there's to me, there's like two components to that. There's probably more, but like there's one of just being in possibility thinking or the growth mindset. Yeah. Right. Of like, and then there's another thing of like, can I just study nature? Right. Can I just see? And one of the questions I ask a lot of of course members when they get stuck. It's like and when they have a negative mindset, it's like, do you at the deepest level believe like that universal energy is neutral, or that it's life positive? Like that something cool has been happening over time. And it's in many ways, it's getting way better. Like my child is so much more emotionally and physically evolved than I was at her age. She's so much more in her body. She's able to communicate honestly and vulnerably. And she's able to connect socially in a way that was not, I would say, have been like adult learning skills for me. Right? It's like, wow.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even take a long view. I mean, we can just see it in such a short view. I was hanging out with my parents last week, and just to see like their relational skills are so different than, and I know a lot of listeners here can, well, and not all by any means, but like a lot of listeners can relate to like when you're with your parents, you're like, wow, I have like my relationship with my partner is on a much, deeper listening, true vulnerability, curiosity about what's trying to happen here, investigation of patterning, like a lot of things that like, are just, it's just a generational advantage, right?
Yeah. I had yesterday, I wrote a blog post, or I sent out a blog post about basically my accomplishments this year. And my mom called me later and she's like, wow, you really are so open. You just don't hold back. And, and she's so closed and she's very, she doesn't reveal. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, it's good. But you could tell that it was so foreign to her to like send out to 1,000 people my deepest, darkest, secrets, or really being totally transparent and authentic and vulnerable. So it was funny that I was able to, transcend that patterning that I grew up with, really, and seeing modeled to me, and recognize that isn't optimal, and being different.
Well, I'm curious too. Did it make her feel uncomfortable or not?
I think it did.
Yeah. It sounded like it. There was a little bit of like,
totally.
And and I just want to bring this back to this rhythm, efficiency, and flow. Is there's an efficiency, if we're in if we've processed and owned, right, our shadow issues are, a lot of your deepest, darkest secrets. Like if you've processed that and it's now safe to communicate so that other people can connect, which it obviously was, right? There's actually an efficiency to the communication, right? And you've tapped into that. Your tribe's super responsive to that. And so you're like, actually, this is so much a better way for us to have this. And of course, you have a totally different set of assumptions than your mom. And yours are much more geared on this efficiency, which enables more flow. So if we also look at flow, the water element, it's so fascinating to me to study water, and how water molecules are based in this connectivity. Like water, when you have like 2 drops of water on the window pane, it's interesting to see how water starts, even rain, it starts as separate and it comes together, right? And it constantly, just like in different forms, it coheses. It pulls things together. And so when we allow new levels of cohesion to take place, we get to access different levels of rhythm and different levels of efficiency. And so to me, this triadic pattern so deeply interconnected, and starts to awaken us to really outside the box ways of making something happen.
Yeah, totally. It's the magnet. It's almost like you magnetize those things when there is that trust and that belief, that focus, that vision, and then the consistent action. Then you magnetize those things into manifestation.
Yeah, totally. And this concept of energy moving from subtle to gross, right? Where we have, like, first it's always going to be vibrational before it's physical. So as we get more, there's something to that. I was on a Body Thrive call with a woman who's really Kapha and has a Kapha imbalance. And she was she was very effectively describing the watery, like what happens with watery sensitivity. Because it's really different. Like a Kapha's sensitivity it's their emotional body. It's like, if you think of like dropping a dye, we use food coloring quite a bit in our household. We have incredible different array of gourmet food coloring in like every color of the rainbow. And I like for Play-Doh and all sorts of craft like experiments. What I'm always surprised at is, and like my child will make like this goop, this slime, and she can make any color of the rainbow. And so she'll have her slime base, which is this mix of like borax and shaving cream and God knows what else. And she'll drop just like a drop into the goop, and it changes the entire, it just colors the entire field. And this is so much this incredible sensitivity of kapha. So as we're able to develop the gift of that, and as we have more rhythm, there's just more stability. There's more, as we add more pitta and direct it, there's more for the form to take shape, right? And then the kapha is this form, and the stability around it. It can stabilize around a better shape, a better direction, a better way to form physiology and to move energy. And as that happens, the gift of this incredible full body access through this liquidity of it's an interesting thing. It's like a liquidity of care in a way, right? Because the kapha is so deeply feel and so deeply carry this connective baseline of energy capacity that like all of a sudden this woman felt in this conversation like, wow, I can be so much more upright and care from this place where I don't lose myself, right? There's not this disassociation, but there's this deep embodiment. And to me, how this relates back to Dharma is like, when we can be in that, we can be so much more deeply awake to our intuition. And we can have this feeling, and this feeling might just be like the drop of purple dye into the slime, if you will, right? And we can allow it to move and spread instead of pushing it away, right? We can really allow it to penetrate. And so that there's a sense of like, what is this trying to inform next? What do I need to digest that I haven't digested, if that's true? Or where is this leading me to next? And then it allows to me this experience of much more rapid evolution because of not having that like sort of compartmentalization of this purple dye is bad. I'm going to push it away. I'm going to isolate this feeling, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I have to say too, one thing that I've noticed from this rhythm efficiency flow in terms of this kapha sensitivity and this connection and in what you were talking about really connecting with your collaborators on your list is so much more can happen so much quicker because of allowing people in right at the place where they can help you the most. And so when I talked initially about the identity evolution and who you're becoming next and that the new relationships are going to come in, one thing that I've noticed is from this incredible ability to be transparent and be vulnerable and not hide anything, but just be like, hey, this is where I need your help. And I really sense you can help me with this, is much more rapid evolution happens. And it's from this deep place of care and love. Right. And it's super fun. And so when a student or a course member comes to me like that, I'm like, I'm all in. And it's so efficient to help them get whatever processing they need or next, whether they might need information, they might need a relationship, they might need an asset, like who knows what it is. Yeah. But I'm able to like so much more easily tune right in than the skeptic, right? And the skeptic's like, I don't know, arms are folded across the chest, weights in the back foot. They're literally leaning back instead of engaging from a grounded place. And they're like, and the mind is really active, separate from the physiology. And there's just not a... Or the person that's just, whether it's skepticism or someone that's just not being open and not just hiding more. Not from a place of skepticism, but more just from a lack of confidence or whatever, they're not willing to come forward. Fear. So tie that back into rhythm. Why does that happen when there's not rhythm with the habits? Right? What? When there's no self-care, there's no self-worth. I mean, self-care creates self-worth and creates that sense of self-love that we do start to stand up for ourselves because we're creating
these boundaries through the habits of basically, it's like matter over mind. Like what we do with our bodies impacts how we feel about ourselves and how we see ourselves and how we respect ourselves and how we honor ourselves. So by honoring ourselves through daily habits, the self-worth arises naturally.
I love how you said that. Yeah, no, and I totally love how you said that. Like the self-care. Yeah, I mean, this is like the rhythm is the rhythm of self-care, right? And then it's like, there's a grounding for the identity. There's actually yeah, exactly. Well, I think we nailed it from about 4 different angles. So if anyone has any questions on this, let us know. Thank you, Donna Skoglund of donnaskoglund.com. This was super fun.
Thanks.
If you are fascinated by Ayurveda and you want to learn more, I have a free training at yogahealer.com/Ayurveda. That's AYURVEDA. We often hear time and again how the way that I teach Ayurveda, because I'm very interested in the ancient and the emergent in culture, that it enables people to make connections and ahas and understand the Ayurvedic perspective in a way they haven't before, in a way that is easy and practical that they can start to put to work for them right away. So all of an introduction to that is in the yogahealer.com/Ayurveda free training. So enjoy that. You may have some time over the holidays to just invest in you and your awareness and what you're wanting to learn next. And that is a great place to start. All right. Namaste and have a great day.
Yoga Healer Real Life Show with Kate Stillman. Yoga Healer.